here's Stuart Patton.
Well, my name is Stuart Patton, and I'm a member of San Francisco Taiko Dojo, and also the sensei of the Burlington Taiko group in Burlington, Vermont. I grew up in Tokyo, Japan. I was there for 15 of my first 18 years. And I went to Yosen Japanese kindergarten through 4th grade in the Japanese school system. And then I switched to a bilingual school. And Taiko is one of the ways that I stay connected with the land of my childhood. So my bloodline is not very Japanese, but my heart, my body grew up there. Improvisation is a very big and nebulous being. I'd like to first talk a little about tradition. And if we're playing, say, Matsuri Bayashi, we're accompanying the dancers, which I personally don't have very much experience doing. I do with other drumming forms, Caribbean and African. And I found that in all drumming and dance traditions, it's been really helpful to go to the elders and listen to how they play it. Not only what rhythms they play, but also the feel, the subtle timing that they have when they're playing the music. Do people know what I mean by the feel and the subtle timing? So something can be in 4/4, say don kara ka ka, don kara ka ka, and you have a single note, then 3 notes in a row, and there's some rests there. And that's a particular rhythm. But different parts of Japan, different villages will then have subtly different ways of playing don kara ka ka. You know, an extreme example would be don kara ka ka, don kara ka ka, don kara ka ka. And that's a very different feel. And so the soloing needs to meld to that. The improvisation needs to meld to that. And reflect the feel, the subtle timing of the music. Yesterday there was a workshop with Kenny Endo sensei here, and he was talking about how Chichibu Yatai Bayashi, you know, the piece that's done in the sit-up position, the G, the basic rhythm, the accompaniment rhythm, Kodo plays as doko, 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 doko. And there's some more traditional groups in the area, the Hozonkai apparently, that plays doko, 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 doko. So the last note, the timing is a little bit later. And I've only heard Kenny-san do it for half a minute, so I'm already doing my version of the feel. But I'm using that as an example of, you know, again, you know, different feels for accompanying the same piece of music. And the improviser, the soloist, ideally would be able to play the accompaniment in the right feel and use that as a foundation for them doing the improvising in the right feel as well. A lot of the soloing you do to don kara ka ka, don kara ka ka, and the bigger choreography that you do will work fine when the basic is straight or pretty evenly spaced. But if it's don kara ka ka, don kara ka ka, then some of the choreography you're used to using won't fit in to that squished time. Do you all understand what I'm saying? Okay. I can't see everyone in the room at once, so let's go with a Japanese hi.
Hi.
Hi. Any mysteries so far? Okay, welcome to the newer people who have arrived. Let's see. I wanted to also say, I was really looking forward to this improvisation workshop when I first heard about the conference and got a schedule of you know, what things were going to happen. I was really looking forward to taking this workshop. Did you think it was number 1 or number 2? This is even before number 1 or number 2. And so then when Kevin Higa called me up and asked me if I would do the workshop, I said, you know, sure, but I was thinking, okay, there's, you know, a big attendance at this conference, and so we're going to need to have a second improvisation workshop. I go, okay, I'm going to be able to take the first improvisation workshop. And turns out I'm the only one right now. Although there was another one earlier today that talked about incorporating joy. Did anyone take that with San Jose Taiko? Yes, it's just Sam. So I'm a good choice for teaching this workshop. I'm not the best choice. And I'm glad to be here and courageously share with you as much as I can. I'd like to see just numbers, how long you've been doing Taiko. So I'd like to start with everyone raising our hands. We all play Taiko, I'm assuming. Okay. Those of you who've been playing for up to a year, you can raise your hand or lower your hands. And then 2 years, lower your hands. 3, 4, 5, up to 7, 10. So about a quick head, okay. We're up to 7 now. 8. Did I already get to 10? Thank you. Okay, 11. 12. They do this at weddings to honor couples who have been stayed married for a very long time. 13. I am 13 as well. Okay, that gives me an idea of the experiences here. Okay, so I'm going to jump into newer traditions. Oh, by the way, there was one more about playing the older traditions. Are you all familiar with, is this a North American term, the melody in a taiko piece? There's the basic, the accompaniment, and then the melody, or the main phrase, the main song in the piece. You all know what I mean by that. So then, in taiko tradition in Japan, of course, they would have another name for it, but there are melodies. And you can then use elements of the accompaniment rhythm, but also elements of the melodies for doing your improvisation. Using the appropriate vocabulary for that style of traditional music. So if you're doing Matsuri Bayashi and you start doing swinging jazz solo on top of it, that's part of new tradition. And I think there's room for that, especially in North American taiko. But if you're accompanying the dancers, we need to honor the old tradition and play the elements that are in those melodies. I think that's a safe beginning, going to the elders and then using those elements. Let's take a break now that everyone's here and set up the drums. We'll have the drums in the flat position towards the front, diagonal stance. The skeroku stands more towards the back. And let's see how many drums we can set up here. Doko as our basic. And then I'll do a sore and you can start. Okay? It's wide open, by the way. Doko, doko, sore. Stop the exercise. This is one of the things we use in Taiko Dojo and in Burlington. I'll do keep, 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 and if you're able to respond with kon don, that would be great. Okay, switching sides, so now this side is improvising. So don kon, so re. have to hit the drum, but this is a loud visual event. And then you have quiet visual events and absolutely silent visual events. That can be an element of your improvisation. Same with audible events. They can be very loud. They can also be very soft. And they can be empty. So no audible event as well. And you can work with the contrast and create. So you're looking at very loud big events and quiet soft events. And that contrast, is this a San Jose Taiko drum?
Not anymore.
So let's look at those dynamics right now. So we'll go with, we'll save time. We'll have the whole group do the improvisation. And those of us who are here, we're going to go and say doko, doko at the same time. So basic players, doko, 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 doko. Listening more. They can't really hear what the soloist is doing. And then from there you can change your pattern. So let's experiment now with visually loud events that are quiet. And then loud events that you can hear loud but are actually visibly pretty soft. Like, so that's a pretty loud event. Or is Kishin on the side okay? No? So I'll assume it's a no. So let's experiment with those. So big visual events that are quiet, and then small visual events that are loud. Work with that contrast. Okay, so basic players. Go, go, go. at that tempo. That's at tempo. Now you can also have the phrase going half as fast. We talked about using the elements of the basic rhythm before. So, don karakaka, you can have the basic rhythm going half as fast, the elements of Matsuri Daiko going half as fast. It becomes very spacious and slow. Everybody know what I mean by half as fast? Okay. Your name is?
Kaname.
Kaname? Kaname, can you play don karakaka for me? Good, that's tempo. Just keep going. So I'm playing Matsuri at the same tempo. Not traditional, but in this contemporary, this is part of new tradition. These are idea elements for improvisation. One more time, please. And now we experiment with going, using the same elements, but going twice as fast as the basic. Don, kara, ka, ka, don, ka, ka. That phrase I actually learned from a college Taiko club in Tokyo on the bottom of a garbage can back when I was in high school. So there's a rhythmic tension or a tempo tension that happens when you play something a lot faster than the basic. Same with when you play something a lot slower than the basic. So let's first experiment with the slower relationship. Okay? So now we're going to sing don kara ka ka don kara. Levantes de poco kara ka so kara ka. Yeah, let's still use the same one. Okay. Don kara ka ka don kara ka ka don kara ka so hey ka. or mysterious tempo, or a very complex mathematical relationship to the tempo of the basic. Okay, all three different ways of saying that play material that doesn't have an understandable tempo relationship to what's going on. This is, say, more in the Gojinjo style. There's a tradition where you can play things that at times don't have a specific tempo relationship to the accompaniment. A lot of what they do does, and it's pretty amazing to me how they can hold space and hold purpose and still get their notes to land in very special places relative to the accompaniment and still look like monsters and make it powerful and mysterious at the same time. But Tiffany-san, if you could play, say, dum, dum, dum. Asked to leave if you do this during Obondan. But in Kumidaiko, group Taiko performance, there is room for the enthusiasm and the cacophony of this kind of material during a solo and improvisation. So this group, okay, let's go with Donko, Donko, big one. So, Donko, 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 single notes. And then clusters of events. So variations in density. Also looking at the empty spaces. And well, we'll get to how to acknowledge, how to honor ma, how to honor the empty space right after this rotation. So let's try this again. Watch me for the tempo of the basic, because they're not going to help us keep time. Don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go, don't go. photographers and documenters, I have extra earplugs if those would be helpful. Well, there are people here who aren't actually playing Taiko right now, and it might be helpful. Oh, okay, boy, I've heard that so many times. I guess I haven't really heard it. Okay, so honoring honoring the empty spaces. When we do this cacophonous or mysterious, timing, I think it's most effective if you use it as a texture. So you're just bringing on, and it can be pretty effective if you stay with that texture. If your emanations, your center, your presence can justify it, you could technically have a 4-minute long solo that was not in a tempo relationship to the basic. But you sat there and you might, and we go on to the, I'll next talk about, emotions and things. And that can really help. But you could potentially justify, that texture for a really long time during a solo. But I feel that the empty space, the ma, is going to be easier for us to integrate the ma and make a long solo out of mysterious timing and make it work for the audience. So one way to fill that ma is to use a kiai. In the workshop with Tanaka Sensei today, the beginning of the Taiko, there were those open spaces. And to help us keep time in that case, we were doing kiai in between the don and the kon. Another is to do a pose. And to me, a pose is a frozen image that we create with our bodies. Everyone know what I mean by posing, right? There's posing taiko, there's ningyo taiko, and there are other styles of taiko. Then there's gesturing, and gesturing, moving the arms, gesturing with the whole body. All right, let me go over the drum. Gesturing with our face, gesturing with our tekubi, our wrists, also with our bachi. We have, what's your name? Deborah? Okay, Deborah's a fantastic bachi twirler. And those bachi are just gesturing really beautifully. It's great. We're also looking at other forms of movement. Movement in relation to the drum. So starting here, and walking away as an extremely proud, carefree monster, and then, this is what Gojinjo does. They do a series of notes. I haven't studied with Gojinjo, but I learned some through Tanaka Sensei. And they're doing, yes, yeah. And they have this hair and this face, the mask and the wig and the costume, and they have fingers that are very large because they always hit them on the drums. But moving relating to the moving away from the drum or moving around the drum as a way to justify open space. Okay? Too many words? We okay?
Okay.
All right. Okay. Great. And then contrasting, bringing contrast into the improvisation with our facial shapes, our intentions and emissions from our body. So, yeah. It's all you. So that was, shoganena face. That's a Japanese face. But there were 3 kinds of faces right there in a 15, 20-second section of solo. And that can really move the audience. You can use that as part of a way to express the empty space, but a part of the way to embellish the drumming that you're doing. Okay? So those ideas, let's work with those. Now we're going with dozoko for the basic in our minds. Okay? Although you're doing cacophonous time, so it won't really matter. You know, we're bringing out part of ourselves, and depending on who you are and how you are and where you are in your lifetime, what you bring out and how much of what you bring out, you know, is altered. Sometimes we're a lot more closed off, so we may need much more structured strength, an outer shell of posing strength, you know, to still put something out, but to hold more of us in. And other times, you know, it may be your day to do a really opening improvisation and share what's going on in, you know, in yourself, an incredible celebration and just overflowing joy, or a really traumatic or difficult part of your life and the release that may happen during your improvisation. And so a completely tearful combination of strength and rage, and then the weakness in the body, you know, not being able to tap into your strength for a while because you're just so kudakete, you know, you're so crumbling. Those are also, you know, things that we bring to playing Taiko. And I think we're all here in some degree because Taiko really moves us. And perhaps it's possible to get up, to lose touch with Taiko moving us when we go to improvise, because there's a vulnerability there. And for some of us, it's easy to set the vulnerability aside and go for it. For others, you know, we're a lot more timid, or we need to create a shell. But as you go on in your life, a very big project, like experimenting with those boundaries and taking off some of those filters. Also experimenting with putting on some of the filters. You know what I mean by the filters? So, you know, putting on 3 layers of protection when you don't need it, and doing an improvisation. There's a different thing that's going to come out. Okay. So now it's your turn with facial emotions and open space. Okay, let's see how long you can hold open space without going back and hitting the drum. Okay? many ideas and elements that you can work with. Butsuke Honban, you know, go and bash into it for the real thing. It's a very loose translation, my apologies. But, you know, let's see, you're a first year Taiko person, you haven't done a solo before. Someone gives you bachi in your hands at the end of a performance and says, "Go now, you're the last solo!" And, you know, our bodies, our psyches will respond in many different ways. You know, if we're really young children, we might, you know, share some of our insides with the floor. You know, I've seen it happen, and adults do respond in a different way. But, you know, just going for it. You know, just jumping in with no preparation. A lot of us like to prepare our solos. Okay, preparers, raise your hands. Yeah, I have this phrase and this phrase. I might play them in different sequence, but that's my solo. Okay. Complete, I don't think about it, I just jump in. I'm raising my hand for both because I try both of them. Okay. And then in between people, you have some vocabulary that you consciously hold maybe in reserve. Okay, if I get completely lost. I know I can play this. We're not playing today. I know I can do our original Matsuri Taiko here. You know, it's safe. So Butsuke Honban, you know, just jumping in and doing it with no preparation. Or telling yourself, okay, I have a half hour before my solo. And, you know, I have this time. And really convincing yourself. And then actually the solo happens in a half a minute. You know, someone says, "Come on, what are you doing? You're on!" You know, that going in, you know, unprepared, or, you know, going in, you will be bringing out, you know, where you are now, you know, with all the elements that you're carrying. And there's something really interesting, you know, perhaps vulnerable and scary there. These exercises, these ideas that I'm giving you, they would be hard to manifest during those times. But if you spend time practicing with, you know, with some of these, they can be integrated as part of your, you know, your psyche's vocabulary at the Taiko time. Do you all know what I'm talking about right now? Thank you. Okay. Conversations. We're working with music, and music is about interaction. Music is about many things. But music is about something happening somewhere, and it moves the air. And so then it moves us, and then we experience it in many different ways. You know, if we're at a Taiko performance, you know, different organs will oscillate at the low Daiko, the O Daiko frequency. You know, sometimes it's your whole sometimes it's specific groups. But you know, the music is coming through the air, and we're experiencing it. It's a conversation between, you know, the instrument and us. You know, we respond back with the events that happen in us. And, you know, those events then travel back towards the instrument. They may be very subtle, you know, a major adrenaline rush in our bodies because we weren't expecting this. You know, we're hearing a quiet fue somewhere, and all of a sudden, right behind us, a member of Kodo goes, you know, with those cherry wood sticks, and we go, you know, we have a major adrenaline experience, and then the instruments, you know, our bodies will resonate in a different frequency now, and the instruments will get to experience that. There's, you know, it's a subtle conversation. There are many ways to converse in music. When we're doing our solo, our improvisation, we can have a conversation between the fuchi and the center of the drum. So we can have conversations between the air, the realm of gesturing, and the drum. Excuse me. That key was rough. Then conversations while you're soloing between you as the soloist and the rest of the ensemble, or other members of the ensemble. So you have many groups, instead of having just a set-length solo, you have a phrase you play when you're done. Say, I am finished playing my solo, you guys can go on with the rest of the piece. And so there's an interaction there. And each group has their own, you may be using phrases from other groups. You know Taiko Dojo and their tsunami, they have a conversation at the end. You know, the two sides, the omote and the ura, talk to each other before the last solo. And then conversations, this is a little a side note, but conversations can happen between other members of the Taiko group while you're doing your solo. This isn't exactly about improvisation for the soloist, but we all have different phrases, and I'd like to teach you a conversation right now, and we're going to be using it while some other people are soloing. And it goes dokodon, cha cha dokodon, cha cha dokodon kondon. Okay, let's say the whole thing, and then I'll divide up conversation and call and response. So it's so re dokodon, cha cha dokodon, cha cha dokodon kondon. So re dokodon, cha cha dokodon, cha cha dokodon kondon. So re dokodon, cha cha dokodon, cha cha dokodon kondon. And so the call is actually cha-cha, and the response is dokodon. And then the second time the response is a little longer. So the person who's doing the call in this case plays the response first, and then does the call. Where it goes dokodon, dokodon kondon. Okay? So the people with drums stand up and play on the drum, please. And those of you sitting down, voice and air drumming would be great. And there are 3 drums open here right now. Okay. So here I go. Great response. So, no, actually you were right. And your name is Paula? Thank you, Paula. And the cha-cha is going to be the call. So I'll go dokodon cha-cha, you all go dokodon. I go cha-cha, and then dokodon kondon. Okay? Right. Dokodon kondon at the end. And if you don't know already, lift your bachi-san before you do your response, so that your response won't be late. Good. Let's have some clapping in time. Always, starting on the first of 4 beats. Okay. So let's try our solos. Conversation between the edge of the drum and the center of the drum, and let's do that one first. Okay. And this time we're going to be in tempo. So we're back to playing phrases that are in tempo. Why I'm going to be with the accompaniment. Okay, let's go with donko donko. Donko 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 donko. Hey, go, hey. Gesturing in the air and your drum. Do y'all know what I mean? Okay. You could do, any. Yeah. And you can start reciting an important piece of poetry. The sky's the limit with North American Taiko, right? Okay. Donko, donko, donko. Hey, go, hey! And the drum. Symbolism and ritual can also be part of our improvisation. So you can have a conversation with your relative who just passed away. With words, if you want. The drums are pretty loud. You can be playing and have your conversation. It can still be a pretty intimate, private experience if you play the drum loud enough. It can be like a lot of traditional drumming and dance forms all over the world. We can incorporate elements of our spiritual life, rituals, movements, fragments of our spiritual life, words, gestures, directions into our taiko drumming. Let's see, Osura Taiko uses a lot. Other examples of taiko groups using elements of life and ritual in their drumming?
American Indians.
American Indians? Okay. How about with other taiko? Okay. Which group?
San Jose.
San Jose. All right. See, I'm on the wrong side of the country to see that piece. I think you're right. Okay, let's try this. So we're back at the donko donko. Ich, ni, so, re. Donko donko, so, re. People living near mountains. We're living near Echo, okay. People living near tall, person-created buildings. Okay. If you've been on near a hill, and you're in a little clearing, and the clearing is surrounded by forest, and you have quite a bit of flat land before the hill actually shows up. You do chop. That's going to echo off the trees. You because it's the high frequencies. The high frequencies will, they don't go around corners very well, so instead of going around the tree and keeping going, they're going to come right back at us. You do, it's going to go through the trees because it's a low frequency. It'll come back and bounce off of the hill. So a performance once with a college dance group when I was in college, and I played the accompaniment. It was Taiko because I didn't have a Taiko, but I really beat up my conga drums playing. But I was playing. And the echo of timing is very different because the hill is far away. The idea of echo, when you're doing a solo, you can be your own echo. So, Kizami Oroshi. Echoes don't have to get quieter. Kind of related to call and response and conversations. But let's work with the idea of echo in this next series. And your choice. Echo can also be from the cheek to the center of the drum. The echoes can be on a different part. When you do in that clearing, the trees and the mountains filter the system, and so the echo that comes back is a little different. I lost you in the last couple of sentences. But are you ready to try it? Right? Okay. Do we need exercises to re-enliven ourselves, or is this rotation working out? Yeah? Okay. So let's go with go. H, E, so. So another extension of call and response or conversation is echo. Let's do another quick rotation. Understanding what you're saying? Okay. Okay, others?
You can have a real echo with another person who is playing with echo.
Yes, okay. Yep. And so it's an echo and a conversation, call and response at the same time. Okay, let's try this one again. So, big. redirect that enthusiasm and excitement for matching perfectly with the tempo. In the visual realm, then another thing we can look at is working with different planes. So there's the plane of the skin. If you're on a skidoku stand, then the plane's at an angle. Here it's more flat to the front. And so we can get to the plane of the skin. We can go at different angles, creating other planes with our arms. That's usually what we do when we hit the drum. Then we can the same plane as the drum, and we can follow the periphery of the drum. It's part of the ritual. Some of the Buddhist paths, I believe, and it's also one of the sounds in drumming. So they use that a lot. Has anyone else seen, Chinese Taiko or Japanese Taiko using that performance? I saw a video once of Japan. I'm sorry, I don't remember, but 2/3 of their pieces had this, at the piece, and it was really, hearing that grating sound, done by the whole room. And actually, I have a question for the room. I've heard that taiko drums often have 8 kugi nails, and that it's an important number in the Buddhist path. The number of completion. Can anyone help me with this? This is a question to use. It's a great place to clarify mysteries. And in Vermont, it's very rare. Yes?
I know that the Sasara, that also has that number of wooden things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was taught that the JAT is to represent each of the people with that number. So
Okay.
for verification that
Thank you. I've also heard that it's maybe a subset of the number of incarnations of Buddha. Does anyone else help me with that?
Yeah, excuse me. 108 represents the number of the desires we have, but it doesn't mean only 108. 108 represents that we have a lot. Yeah. We use the number not 3, 9, 108, and above 108 we say like 84,000. So it doesn't represent only 108, but that means we have a whole lot of desires.
Okay. Thank you very much. And your name is?
I'm Ruji Tamiya.
Once again?
Tamiya.
Tamiya, first name?
Ryuji.
Ryuji.
Yeah.
Domo.
The Buddhist reverend. Buddhist minister.
Domo. Okay, so we're working with different planes. Someone in the room knows what I'm talking about and would like to demonstrate working with different planes. Vertical, horizontal, diagonal. Anyone want to help? No volunteers?
okay.
Dozo. Next one is nice, go for it. Hey, Taiko. So a plane that's and then diagonal planes. And of course, there are many different directions that we can take these planes. And the illusion of one arm doing the figure 8. And then surrounding the drum, we do this a lot in the Nidaguchi, Yonaguchi style, where here's the drum and we're drawing a circle. We're framing the drum with this circle, and then of course we can do it on the other side. So let's experiment with those planes of motion. And again, reiterating, we are responsible for what our bachi hits. So please honor your neighbors in a not so impactful way. Okay. So would you like a basic for this, or do you want to just experiment? Basic. Okay. Donko donko or dondoko? Right? Donko donko. 1, 2, 3. Donko 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 donko. From the beginning. So improvising on tradition. Can someone help remind me of what I talked about? Ideas, for improvising on tradition. Call and answer. Yep, those are some of the ones. This was at the very beginning. I was talking about studying with elders. Yep, and going to the history and the origins or earlier elements of that style of music, Matsuri Bayashi, and going to the older people who play Matsuri Bayashi, listening to what they play, the phrases they play, and the feel that they have. What is the timing of their accompaniment? Are there phrases that they play with a delay? A silent delay. Some styles I'm hearing purposefully delay their note just a little bit, especially when they do do con, so that the left hand rush as fast as it can into the drum to get there on time. Gets there half a moment late, but it ends up hitting the drum really hard, just as hard as the right hand. I think it's called tameguchi. Different, going to our elders, going to sources for this older music, and using elements of the melodies if we're going to be improvising. Is this working? Have I lost your attention? Let's do another one. Second group, working with different planes of motion. Okay, with donko donko basic. 1, 2, 3. Donko donko donko. language. Music is also a language. And for structures and patterns outside of the Taiko bar, for ideas for our improvisation. Events, sequences in nature, is in human environment. The Japanese train system has a sound when it goes over the sea, when the tracks meet. Railway station, you have trains arriving and departing. There's Kizami right there, but with a different feel. And it gets, faster and faster, slower and slower. And it's a complex, beautiful song when you have 4 or 5 trains, even 2, one arriving, one departing. They're at different speeds. Another one is songs that we grew up with, songs that are part of our lives. Donko, donko, donko. We're playing North American Taiko. So why not look at the jazz repertoire and look for melodies that reach us in the mood? People from all over the world here, national anthem. Mary Had a Little Lamb. Use your face, use your emotions, use your emissions, You can do it so that they, my hands because it's a very fine one, but Adam's family. And traditions, drumming tradition, I see, Cuban, Caribbean, conga drumming, West African, and also Cuban taiko. And in all the traditions, there is an element of humor in performance. We've all seen use humor in their performance. I mean, one that goes on trains and they're cutting boards. But using songs, it's a great element. Let's see. Another attitude that people can name for us. Five. Okay. Okay. So looking at songs as a source, and those examples I just said are the melodies of the song, and we're using the melody and the rhythm of the same time. We can give enough of a feeling of that song to have it come across. If you get really change some of the phrases, then it's mysterious and the audience So what is the thing? What is the aura of each of the syllables in the haiku? Is there a pitch? You know, a, I, u, e, o. There's if you're using there's different accents words in the haiku based on what the words are that are being used. So using poetry and haiku as as your foundation. Are you all understanding what I'm saying? Go wrong. Okay, and words. Other traditions, let's see, Nigerian, West African, Nigerian, Yoruba, they play bata drums. Two skins on each drum. They put a hand on a leather thong. And each drum can make 3 different pitches. There are 3 drums in the ensemble with 9 pitches. Each language is tonal, saying phrases from their scriptures, speaking in the old language. You can also say words that won't exactly sound like our language, but you can experiment with all those different sounds. Going back to the timing, the timing that we were talking about. Other phrases we do, they don't have to be music, they can also be in time music. Okay, songs, lyrics. What else did I just talk about? Lots enough, let's try that. So we'll go with a dondoko as do you want to try this one? All right. They're literally the melody, but let's see. Pitch works. Okay. And it's springtime. I where I grew up really reached me during a performance. And it can be so meaningful to me that it really works. It's part of the performance. Okay, so let's try another series. Here we go. Dotoko or donko? Doko? Doko? Hey. So, hey. Very good. We're interactive musicians, so when you response, you can figure out little lamb, little lamb. Animated TV, children's songs. Anyone want to try it? Okay. This is getting into just the music, not the part. But every accompaniment rhythm has open space. Okay? Some of those open spaces are reach. I'd like you to put and hit your body there, okay? In the open space, in Don, I'll play the basic, everyone else, I want to hit where that place is, where that open space is. In don, do, ko, don, we often just naturally play that space, especially when we start playing fast. So if you play a fast near the space, you'll probably hit that space too. More difficult open space to fill is in don, ko, don, especially when it gets fast. I hit that empty space. Is that what that empty space is? Okay. Anytime you hear in the or basic, there's empty space. Do, do, ko. Put our lap during the vocalize the basic. Do, ko, do, ko, do, ko, do. That's a difficult one because most of the time we're playing swing music. And we're hitting either on the or on the call. And since we grew up in, a lot of us grew up in the U.S., we heard all forms, jazz and blues, and some music. And we also grew up in Taiko music that people don't call. And hitting that open space is not very often in that style of music. Play the G in that open space. Without playing all it can be a really nice sound if you have, on the doing ka 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 ka, and you're playing don't go, you're playing something else, but you make a ka sound, because then you have of the edge of the drum ka, and then the body of the bilge of the edge of the drum going. And take a few of those out, and you have some interesting phrases going on. You can also play twice as fast in any piece of music, and you will fill empty spaces. An accompaniment that's basic rhythm is kind of the foundation the audience is listening to, people are listening to. And create a tempo in everything I'm saying is what I've experienced. It's not the only perspective, but there's something that we can do with how they're hearing the basic rhythm by playing in between those spaces or playing twice as fast. It stretches or alters it for a little bit. And in African drumming tradition, the soloist can first note of your basic dong or dong, 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 dong. And by accenting it not there and really consistent with it, having the drummer's whole just really express that note, you can have the audience they're not upright anymore. They're an accented note as a down. And then you as the soloist, you can see the audience there for a while. Go back and play the most boring music, or simple, or something you've already played before. And because their perspective is diagonal, whoa, that's a really beautiful thing. The music sounds very different. Do you all understand what I'm talking about? So this is it's a musical. I would put in the category generally of newer tradition, but there are versions of it that are part of older Taiko tradition, like in the Matsuri Bayashi, there's that space right after do, during the and that's a space that Matsuri Bayashi players fill very often. Okay. We've talked about a lot of things today. Well, I talked about a lot of things today. And this is another exercise. Please play your solo, your improvisation, including all the things we were talking about, but only using the drum. So there's your one. So let's hear your solo. I'll play the basic and we'll say so. Spending a lot of time in class, and then simple, in the center of the drum, be more meaningful, or very fresh. At the same time, we won't do the solo that's only in the center of the drum, but I would like to do the solo that is only away. Okay? So this is an exercise to stretch and explore this realm. Okay? So, So your visceral response was, did you have a response to the
I guess it's more joyful that it,
Okay.
just freedom. Instead of thinking, what am I going to do? It's that part of my brain is so that
Okay. Thanks. I like it.
Like dancing. Different. I like the movement.
We tend to focus on the events, the action, and the action is not. So yeah, there's a lot there.
They're like piece of paper. Artists are like piece of paper. It's very simple.
Conversations.
It can be really amazing. You know, when you work, and get back and forth, or even three-way conversation.
Uh-huh. Push one of your buttons that you cringed, where you said, in your part of you said, no, Stuart, that's wrong. That's not part of Taiko. Mary had a little lamb on the Taiko drum. Did that push any buttons for people?
It's funny.
We're so open-minded.
Like kids connect with, you play George in the Jungle. They just start bustling up and then you got it. You do whatever you want.
Yeah, that's more a natural rhythm. A click pace from, we can't put that down on notation, but it's part of our inner rhythm. Well, I'll be here for a little bit before we close the circle. I know we're sharing an intimate acoustic space with a very important being over here in the Taiko show group. And so I'd like to thank you for being here. And I'd love your feedback. If there are ideas that we can cover, let me know. I'd be really psyched. So thank you again for your time. And let's do a more traditional closing. So, 正座お願いします。